Well, here we are. It's Mental Health Monday with the Refuge. And I will just say that this has been a really fun series for us to do. And we weren't really quite sure what it would look like and how it would all develop over time, but we know this for sure. It's needed. And so these little spots to listen to wise people who are therapists and who know how to hold space for us, how to give us skills, how to give us ideas, how to honor the feelings that we're feeling has just been super helpful. So this Mental Health Monday, we're really happy to have our friend Valerie Grant with us. I'm here with Joe Rainey from the Refuge, and Valerie has been a good friend of the Refuge really since the very beginning. So that was way back in 2007 probably, and has just traveled with us as a friend and support person, and just somebody that we have really valued coming in and training advocates and teaching and sharing in different ways over many years. So we're happy to have her here, and we just hope that you will continue to watch and listen and take in what you need.
Is that me?
Oh no, Joe. Almost. We're glad you're here. And just a reminder for folks that there are discussion questions underneath the YouTube description box. And there are also, we just started a podcast. Sorry, my husband just woke up and is distracting me. We're recording, honey. So no, thank you. Sorry. I have ADD, so it's like, I'm like, too many things. Anyways, we're all just finding our way through this whole thing, aren't we? So we've got discussion questions in the chat box underneath the YouTube video. And then also, I know a lot of people prefer podcasts and don't have time to like pull the video up and watch it. And so I actually started a podcast as well. So that should be live on Spotify and Anchor and a couple other places. So you can download that as well and listen to it while you're on your commute from your kitchen to your bedroom and then back. So anyways, we're glad that you're here, Valerie, and can't wait to just share this time with you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for doing this. And to all the people, I listened to all the other podcasts, and to all the people that went before us, such good stuff. But this is a really thoughtful, visionary, generous offering. So thank you for doing this. I'm going to start, today I'm going to talk about the attachment stuff that gets kicked up with threat and crisis. And I'm going to start by taking a minute to change my brain and resource myself. So what I'm doing is I'm noticing that like in my belly and kind of up my core and in my chest, I'm feeling a little fluttery. I'm feeling a little nervous, a little anxious. And I'm going to stop and look at your faces. And I'm noticing your smiles, your eyes, Kathy's teeth that shows up when she smiles, the tones of your skin, your hair. I'm letting myself take that in. And I'm noticing that what I feel is so much love and familiarity and safety. And I'm just going to take 2 breaths with that. So I just created a neural pathway from my anxiety to the place in my brain that knows how to be calm and to feel love and that feels connected. So I wanted to start with that because that's a thing that we can all take a few minutes and do. So now I'm launching it. Just as I get settled in and there's some predictability to my days and there's a routine to working with people online and I'm figuring out how we're going to eat and what our days look like, there's been a shift in should we stay at home more, should we go back, and different opinions about that, and a lot of mixed messaging. First wave, second wave, all of this stuff. And I'm noticing, the turmoil, bubbling again. And I'm noticing that a part of me wants the grown-ups to come in and tell us what to do. And I feel kind of helpless because I don't really trust the grown-ups that are in charge. And so that takes me to attachment trauma, but also just our capacity for attachment repair. So all of us have or are or had imperfect parents. That's just kind of a fact of life. So that all of us come to wherever we are right now with a certain amount of attachment trauma or disruptions to our attachment. And that just means that we have broken connections to our bodies, to our sense of who we are, to others, which is exacerbated right now, to our spirituality, whether we call that life force or source or God. There's disruptions to that connection. And threat always activates trauma. So it's activating that. So the younger selves that are always with us, like in this moment, I am all the ages I have ever been. So the younger self that is always with me emerges. And there can be a felt sense of being alone, of being abandoned, of feeling like I'm being asked to carry something that's just way too much for me. And some of that is true. A lot of it is true. But I want to go back and just talk developmentally about attachment. In our very first stages of life, we are born as babies and we come into the world with the capacity to soak up images and experiences and emotions and events, and especially with our things that are from the people who are in charge of our care. And so there's this sort of amalgam of sensation that's happening to us. And research has even shown that babies as young as 6 weeks old will try to regulate their parents' emotions with their behavior. Well, those babies, like, we don't start being able to name emotions or what we're feeling or creating a story about what's happening. Like, mom is nuts right now. We don't do that for a while. We don't even have language for a while. So we're recording it, but we don't have any way to make sense of it. Another thing that happens is that our hippocampus is the part of our brain that's below our cerebral cortex. And that's the part of our brain that places us in space and time. And that doesn't come online until we're like 18 months to 2.5 years old. So there's something that happens to us, which some people call baby amnesia. We don't remember that part of our lives, but we're affected by it. So a couple of things are happening, and I just want to take a moment and acknowledge, because there are people that do so much work to write books and gather data and do research, and I want to acknowledge Diane Poole-Heller and Rick Hansen and Linda Graham and Kristen Neff, because I'm drawing on all their stuff, and who knows what part is whose, but it's in there. So a lot of things are happening, but one thing that's happening is that our brains are biased towards fear and threat because their job is to keep us safe. So they're going to be hypervigilant about that. In the presence of threat, our nervous system is going to get activated, and that all the ages that we are going to get activated. So if we have words for it, like I'm sad or I'm angry, that's probably a little bit older age. If we just have this voidless feeling of overwhelm that's hard to name, for myself, I start calling it like fussiness, just like irritability, and and there's stuff under it. But my first clue that my baby's in the room is fussiness, like just kind of fussiness. And we start looking around for the grown-up who's in charge. And we want to know, are we safe? Are they trustworthy? Sometimes what's happening, and maybe you've noticed this, is that in response to trying to find the grown-up that's in charge, we will bring in whatever grown-up we can get our hands on, which is often the harsh grown-up of that we've internalized from somewhere. A parent, a coach, you know, so it's either the negligent or the harsh grown-up. And that grown-up is often has voices that are, it's about control or coercion. Stop wasting time, pull it together. If you don't blank, this is gonna happen. It's gonna be even worse. Or just the negligent, like, can't see that, don't see you, don't wanna know what's going on. And so we can treat ourselves this way and we can treat our loved ones this way. So that's part of what threat and crisis can set in motion. And if that's happening, you're a human. Yeah. But here's the great news is that we got this. We are fundamentally designed to heal. So even if our childhoods were less than ideal, our secure attachment is biologically programmed into us. Our brain is designed with something called neuroplasticity, which other people have talked about too. But it's constructed to allow for adaptation, healing, and growth. So like at the beginning of this video, I created new brain cells. We are constantly creating new brain cells, which are neurons, and creating pathways between the brain cells that we have, which are neural pathways. So neurons, are you with me? I can see that. Neurons fire 5 to 50 times a second. So that's a lot of opportunity. So we can repeatedly grow resource and resilience and well-being all these many times a day by taking a minute or less. But most of the beneficial experience that we have in our lives and throughout our day and as these neurons are firing is wasted on our brains. So that's where we can bring in our attention. So for example, I can wake up and look outside and see that most of the blooms on the apple tree froze, and I can think about my kids and I can worry about them. And I have a huge part of my brain that's dedicated to worrying about my children. So I have a lot of brain cells there. So I can make this pathway that just goes there. But with a little effort, I can make this experience leave traces behind that change my brain. So I can look outside and I can notice that ache for my children and the worry. And I can just accept it. I feel that ache. I'm worried about them. Of course I am. I accept the worry. I accept the ache. And then I can pause. And I can notice the sky, whether it's cloudy or rainy or bright blue. I can notice birdsong. I've been noticing birdsong so much lately because in my regular office where I work, windows don't open. And so where I am now, windows are open. And these birds are just insistent. They just sing through all of it. The snowstorms, the rain, they're just singing. And I noticed that there's one branch that was somehow sheltered on the apple tree, and that the buds, I'm seeing it right now, that the buds are pink, but as it opens, it turns white. So I'm noticing all of that. And when I pause and I do that, I created new brain cells. And I created a pathway that went from worry for my children to the resource and calm of a natural world. Because I also have a huge part of my brain that knows calm and that has been resourced by the natural world. So there's that linkage going on. Yeah, so just repeat, anytime we repeatedly pause and take in pleasure, enjoyment, what we're noticing, we are creating a neural pathway. We're increasing the activity of neurotransmitters. So we're getting that dopamine, norepinephrine, natural opioids. I got that when I was looking at your faces, when I started feeling all warm and like, yeah, that happened. So then my brain flags that as a keeper experience, right? So it's not just tagging, like I want to give our brain some credit here, because it's not just tagging trauma, and it's not just tagging activation of loss and trauma. It's just all set up to tag this activation of calm and pleasure. So let me take a drink of water and then I'll keep going. I want to offer some things for a little sweetheart inside of us that we can do and activate instead of becoming the harsh grownups with ourselves. So the first thing to try, and this is all attachment repair, and these are teeny little things. So the first thing to try is just acceptance. What am I thinking? I'm thinking, I wish my extroverted husband would go away to camp for a week. I'm irritated. Okay, I feel irritated. I accept that thought. I accept that emotion. Not like, why are you, he's doing the best he can, like, what's wrong with you? Why do you always need so much alone time? Are you isolating? I don't go there. I'm like, I accept that thought. I accept that feeling. Okay. I accept what I feel. Deep breath. That's one intervention. You just created new brain cells and new pathways in your brain. Second thing I'd like for you to consider trying is just noticing moments of delight or comfort. So for me, I started brewing I do a pour over coffee, and I started putting cinnamon in the top of it. And I love the smell of it. And I stop and I just 3 breaths. The smell of the coffee, bird song. I could just bring my attention back to the bird song, people's faces. There's something turquoise in the window behind Joe, and it's like, that color just brings me joy, So those are effective interventions. That's attachment repair. It's not too much for us, okay? And I want to close by just doing with everyone, I want to lead us in a guided self-compassion exercise that has probably evolved, but it's initially comes from the research of Kristen Neff. Because when we perceive threat, whatever that looks like, and we don't perceive threat with our prefrontal cortex, we perceive threat with our brainstem, which responds in 1/1000th of a second. So we're activated. We don't have a chance to think about it and deactivate. Our parasympathetic nervous system responds in 1/100th of a second. Our prefrontal cortex responds in 1 second. So when we're activated, like, what we're thinking is kind of like, doesn't matter. Our skills, our thoughts, what we know, and we can get there. But a very quick way that Kristen Neff found in her research to shift from the brainstem activation to the parasympathetic nervous system is by just applying our own touch. So I usually do 1 hand on my chest and 1 hand on my belly, but Kathy, you can do 2 hands on your chest, whatever that is. So I'm going to close my eyes just so that I can pull my attention. I'm just going to notice the pressure of my palms, of my fingers. And just take in my own turning toward myself, my own touch. And then just take a moment and name the feelings and you don't have to do this out loud, but just name the feelings that you notice there. You don't have to name why or get inside of them, but just name what you see as if you're jotting it down on a piece of paper. And then notice where that feeling is in your body, or those feelings are. This is the part where we simply give ourselves our own attention, our own compassion. We might say something like, "Sweetheart, I see you." Sometimes men feel more comfortable saying, "Buddy, I see you, I'm with you. You're not too much for me. I want to be with you. I see you." This is really hard. Of course you feel all of those things. I'm with you. And then just take a moment to tap into your own source of compassion and see what it is saying to yourself right now that you need to hear. Again, feel the pressure of your hands. You might say something like, "I'm here, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here for you." Take a deep breath. And notice what's happening in your body now as you have your own attention, as you have your own touch. Take another deep breath. And just gradually let yourself re-enter the space, the room, what you can see. So these are small, they seem like small interventions, but they're very potent. So that we can repair that attachment with ourselves when we show up for ourselves in that way. So that's what I have for you today.
Thank you, Valerie. That was great. I just love the practical aspect of your work. And yeah, I came into this call a bit frustrated because I was running late, and I have this inner parent that's like, be responsible, have all your shit together all the time. And yeah, so even just for me, that was super, just helpful to center in and just give myself some kindness. So thank you.
Yeah.
I thought the same thing. It's like when I put my hand here, and I do this sometimes. And so it was so good to have the reminder, like I want to cry. And that's a good feeling.
Yeah.
It's a lot to do what we are all doing. And we're all experiencing this in different ways. And we all have different attachment wounds. Across all kinds of different parts of our lives.
Yeah.
And so thank you for practical. And I love what you said, small but potent.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes we dismiss the small.
Yeah.
And so we're looking for this and the small little things that can help reorient us.
Well, the overwhelm feels so big that we think we need we need a month in a treatment center, because that's how big the overwhelm feels. But the truth is that we can do small things. Yeah.
Yes, I love the reminder. So this is exactly why we do Mental Health Mondays.
Hey.
I'm so thankful, and I just always want to remind everybody, our friends volunteer their time to do this, and it is part of the Refuge's heart. And that is that we want to be as healthy and as integrated as we can, and that none of this is masterable. but there are things that we can do to strengthen and sustain us. I love the questions. Joe is the mastermind behind those questions, and I really encourage you to use them. And you can text the link to people. You can email the link to people. We purposely put it on YouTube so that it was easily travelable. Instead of only on Facebook. So thanks everybody, and just be good to yourself.
Yeah.
Bye, friends.
Bye-bye.